Welcome to Built to Win, the podcast created to help you level up your business game by developing a success mindset made for the long run. In this episode, Neora's Dave Fleming talks with Vikki and John Downey, seasoned entrepreneurs and national marketing directors at Neora, who share their journey from running brick-and-mortar businesses to thriving in direct sales. They share their story of entrepreneurial pivots and explain how direct sales has given them the life of freedom and flexibility they were looking for. And they'll tell us about the joy they get from helping others discover that same life.
Hey, welcome back to Built to Win, everybody. Thanks for joining me one more time. And I am really excited about this episode. I have two incredible business leaders, entrepreneurs, and just awesome people all the way around. I've got Vikki and John Downey, national marketing directors at Neora, but also have a vast experience, including their own podcast, which I'm sure we'll get to hear a little bit about. But guys, thanks for joining me. And for those that don't know you, why don't you just tell us who you are and a little bit about yourselves and what are you doing these days?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Dave. We're excited to be here. So we live in Southern California. We've been married 36 years, and we kind of are, in a sense, serial entrepreneurs. The way we met, it was a blind date, but John had a business and he wanted me to be his office manager. So we were still dating and I was his office manager. And it was a brick and mortar store in the city of Brea. If anyone is from Southern California knows Brea. And from then on, we've just been, we knew the trappings of traditional business and it's tough. And we knew we didn't want a store, a physical location again. And at the time, we wound up having to close that. And John became a police officer. Do you want to kick off that?
Yeah, so the business Vikki was talking about that I actually started when I was in high school in my mom and dad's garage. So that had been going for some time. Then I went to college. It was kind of a part-time deal, but it still grew, and it was a good business. The problem became when I had to lease a building and hire and whatnot. It just turned into it's a conventional brick and mortar business, as Vikki said, a lot of pitfalls. And when we got out of that, I knew I didn't want to do that again. It was just too much struggle and strife. So I became a policeman in the city of Los Angeles, did a career there. But the entire time I was there, I knew we wanted to be in business again. We had to find something else and a better business model. And so we were always looking, always trying to find something. And then, of course, Neora comes along, and it ended up being the perfect business for us. And it was exactly what we were, hoping for, praying for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our story. And we've been with Neora 13 years now. Just had our anniversary.
I guess we should mention that we have two kids. We don't leave them out of here because I'm sure they're going to listen to this. So we had our daughter first, then our son. And now we have grandkids finally. We actually got married pretty young. Yeah. And we had our kids, Misa and John, our daughter and son, when we were in our mid-20s, and we thought, okay, this is going to work out great because we're going to have grandkids when we're still young enough to be able to physically play with them and do things with them. Well, the kids were great. We had them early, but it seems like this generation now isn't in a big hurry for kids starting careers, buying homes or whatnot. Not saying it's good or bad, just it's different.
And we didn't guilt trip them.
No, it's their obviously it's their choice, right?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they just now this year decided, hey, we're gonna give you guys grandkids. So we have our granddaughter Noelle that was born in January, and now our daughter is due any day with our first grandson.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
It's exciting times.
Congratulations. That is cool. That is really
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about you. Obviously, you mentioned you were looking for something, you wanted to do business for yourself, and then Neora comes along. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, had you done direct selling previously to Neora, or was this your first venture into it?
Yeah, that's such a great question. We had. So it kind of goes back to our traditional business days, that brick and mortar. We had somebody share multi-level marketing, direct sales, Amway with us. Actually, we had a couple things be shared with us. We didn't know they were direct sales, like Quorum, which was a personal alarm. And I think Jeff Olson was a big part of that company, but we didn't know Jeff Olson back then. And, but friends had shared Amway, so we got involved. And that was right when John was hired on as a police officer. And what we got out of that first one, because then there was a second one before Neora, was all the personal development. We were blown away in this industry how much great personal development there is. And in that business, there were just couples building their business, really single people, or at least we weren't part of a group that had a bunch of individuals building. It was all couples. And I loved that as a wife. And I felt like our marriage got stronger because of that business. We had so many great takeaways, but there were some gotchas too. So we knew what we didn't want after that one. And then quickly moving into like 10 years later, I joined a party plan company that was candles, all candles.
Okay. Yeah.
And clean, and that's what I loved about it. But and it was fun. It was a fun business, but again, there were more gotchas. I had to sell a certain amount to get paid. There was a little bit of a garage qualifying where if I didn't have enough sales, I had to purchase products or gift certificates so that my volume was enough so that I would get paid on my entire team. So it's funny, when Neora came around, it didn't have the gotchas. And that was one of the many, many things that caught our attention, as well as the product. Did you want to talk about, I don't know if John might want to talk about the fact that neither one of us wanted to do skincare when Neora came out. Me either. I didn't either. But what did you say to me? You said something that really struck a chord.
Well, it makes sense, and it applies to everyone, right? All you have to, pretty much everyone has skin. And when Vic was doing the candle business, it was very lucrative. She made great money. It was wonderful. They had great candles. They have, some cool things. But for the most part, women, it applied to mostly women. I couldn't see me. I couldn't see my buddies getting into candles. Right?
Or having a candle party.
Yeah.
Yeah. The LAPD full of candle.
Right?
Yeah.
They would have taken my badge and gun away if they saw me at a candle party. But when we saw Neora, it just made total sense. It's something that no one wants to look their age. No one wants to look even older than their age, certainly, right? Everyone wants to look younger. Everyone has skin. It applies to men and women, pretty much everyone. It just made so much sense.
Yeah. And that's what got my attention. I thought, okay, well, if he's on board, I agree, right? The fountain of youth is never going away. That's what I remember you saying to me. My buddies at work, they don't admit it, but they don't want to look their age either. So that's why we jumped all in.
And then when I said we can do this, I really meant you can do this.
But I really thought he meant we.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, because obviously, as entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, you're busy people. And I can't imagine that, working for the LAPD, it gives you a lot of spare time to go grow a business. So how did you find the time to go grow the business?
Yeah, well, going back to the LAPD part of it, technically, I'm not supposed to do any of that unless I ask permission to do it. That was one thing when I got hired. I'd said this to Vic, that the day I was hired by the city of Los Angeles, they now own me. And everything I do, I had to ask permission for, even though it was off duty on my own time, right? You think for most jobs you sign up and you're signing up for a 40-hour-a-week job, and your employer controls you for the 40 hours that they have you. The rest of the time is up to you. Not so with the police department, at least not in Los Angeles. Wow. So I have to ask permission to do these things. So I have to turn in a request through my commanding officer if I have permission to actually do this stuff or not. So obviously it was Vicki's business, and they don't have any control over that. But even for like days off, which if I want certain days off, I have to ask permission to have those days off. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But so finding time, I guess your question, what the great thing, I think the key to this business is you can kind of work it into the time you have, right? You don't need to set certain hours. You can work it into like you always say, the cracks and crevices of your life.
Right. And you shared it with buddies at work. John actually I share with my friends, he shares with the buddies at work. But what we found, a lot of people don't have an entrepreneur mindset. And so he was having to educate them on, hey, you guys work in overtime, here, you're just trading hours for dollars, yeah, but it's great money. They would tell you they didn't understand how, what we were doing, right? That was a struggle trying to educate a lot of people, on putting a lot into it before you reap the financial benefits. But when you do, it's ongoing. You've got that residual piece, and that's where they don't catch on to very easily.
Yeah. Say more about that, because that's something that I feel like a lot of people, if they understood it, would be a lot more attractive. And yet it seems to be a really difficult concept for people to get their head around for some reason. Like, has that been your experience too? Or have you learned how to talk to people about that?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that, because I see people even in this industry that they know about residual income, they know about passive income, but or at least they've heard it. I don't know if they fully understand it, because if they understood the power of it, I think they'd really want to leverage it. And it's a weird concept. Like we've talked, how many people take rideshare, right? You're in an Uber, you're in a Lyft all the time. And I talk to those guys, and even they don't seem to understand. Like I tell them, you're making great money, I guess it's good money, using the asset you already have, a car, and you're using your spare time driving people around if that's your thing. But could you imagine if you received, what did you get on that ride? $10? What if you received 10 cents ongoing every month for that ride that you just completed? You don't have to go back out and repeat that ride, but you're going to repeat more and more rides. But for every ride that you complete, you're getting a dime a month. It's not going to move the needle. 10 cents is not going to change your life, but compounded over time and adding those dimes up, getting that residual income month after month after month. So 5 years ago, you're still getting paid on every ride that you gave from 5 years ago. You would be making so much money. Then that's basically kind of what we do.
So he usually gives that example, and then that starts to unlock their brain a little bit. You can see their eyes kind of twinkling.
Otherwise, you're just stuck on that wheel where you can't get off of it. You're just continually trading hours for dollars, and there is no end to it. Just like the guys that I work with, they work overtime. You make great money, but for every minute you worked overtime and got paid for it, you're going to have to repeat that again next week, and the week after that, and the week for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So it's hard. It's really hard teaching that. We don't want to convince anyone. There shouldn't be any convincing. They need to have their aha moment.
Sure.
But the education part takes time, and a lot are just not entrepreneurs. I mean, we have those conversations a lot when we leave a couple that we talk to. It's a shame, and not that they can't learn, and we hope that they do. We really hope and pray they do, because entrepreneurship is where it's at, for us, for sure.
For sure. Yeah. And you guys have built a really, really great, successful business, and you are enjoying that we call that a book of business, where you have repeat customers who come back and you get paid every time they order. Was that something that was of interest to you when you looked at this? 'Cause, in comparison with the candle business?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
Like, is there a lot of repeat purchase in the candle business, or was that one of the things that stood out to you here?
Great question, because the leaders and the company will tell you that there's tons of repeat orders, that you're going to have residual income. That is what is taught. But truthfully, I definitely found out after 9.5 years there that people maybe buy every 6 months, but it's more like every year, once a year. It is not monthly. And that was the huge, caveat to a sticky business, as we call it, with a skincare product. It's not that the product is tacky, sticky. It's sticky, meaning people use it, love it, see results, and stick with it. And need it. And it's a 30-day supply. So then they order again the next month and the next month. Where the candles, I was finding they were quality, that's for sure, quality candles. So they cost a little more than the ones you would find at a dollar store, and let's
Sure.
just say, and so people would say, well, I'm not going to burn my good candles every day. They actually said that to me. And so there was an education piece. Well, I'm like, no, treat yourself when you clean the house. Burn your candles to celebrate, your accomplishment of cleaning the house. But they wouldn't do it. So to answer that bluntly, no, there really was not that repeat volume the way we have it here at Neora with our skincare, wellness, and our hair care. They're using it every month and ordering again.
Yeah. Yeah, which is great. That's what, like, if you're going to build a business, that's why, and that's why you see so many subscription companies and people applying that subscription business model to everything and anything that you can think of these days. Because it is, like you said, it is sticky. And
Yeah.
when I was out in Silicon Valley for a few years and working out there, like, stickiness was like the holy grail. Like, if you had something that kept people coming back, that was like that was what
Huge.
everybody was seeking in business, because it means long-term value. And
Totally. Totally. I even think back to our first business. It was automotive accessories and window tint, car stereo, alarm. And you and I talked about that. People aren't getting new window tint, every month on their car, or getting
Yeah.
a new stereo. And yes, it was a big pop of a sale, the initial sale, but hopefully they referred us, then we would get something else, or they crashed their car and got another car sooner than a year.
Oh dear.
But
Yeah.
it's rare. Yeah,
Yeah.
you really want a consumable product business. That's what we've learned.
Sure. Sure. Were there, I'm curious, were there principles that you learned, whether it was John with the LAPD or you, Vikki, with your other businesses, were there skills that you brought with you that were able to help you build a successful business here, or was this kind of all brand new?
Definitely. What do you think?
That's a good question. I never thought of that. I'm thinking for me, it was probably all brand new. More
Yeah.
so.
What we learned here. Yeah.
What I learned from previous work, what I could carry forward into this. I
Wow.
would have to say that it wasn't really the same, because you figure they're worlds apart, right? Police work.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sales in a sense. Yeah.
Thank goodness they're worlds apart.
And I would say, yeah, I would say my previous business, especially the candle one, there was great training at that company. And so, yes, I was terrible at follow-up, for example. That was my nemesis. I was great at sharing, having a catalog out. That's what we did back then, and look through it. So my friends would peek over my shoulder. Oh, what's that? And look at the catalog. So I didn't feel like I was being a pushy salesperson. But following up, I was terrible. And I came from a mom who slammed the door on solicitors and slammed the phone down. That was when we answered the phone back in the day. And she would be, is this a solicitor? Get to the point. You're trying to sell me something, slam. And so I was petrified coming into any type of sales. I can't be the only person that feels that way, but I really was traumatized. I think I have PTSD over it. And in that other company, I learned that I could get better at follow-up, that I wasn't being pushy, that I was being the consummate professional by following up with somebody and asking, how they love the product and making sure they were happy and doing great customer service. And then that led to me having more confidence in the products. And then it was easier to ask for the sale with a new person that I had just shared with. So I brought all of that to Neora when I came, and I'm so grateful for that. I didn't have to relearn. That was definitely something. I had that training ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Prestige? Did you feel like I felt like we still learned a lot.
Yeah, we did,
in
for sure.
Prestige.
For sure, because we had to do everything, right? Because it was a sole proprietorship. It was just us. And for a while, it was just me before Vikki came on board. And then, it was just that typical conventional business where you had to do everything, right? I had to wear all the hats and spin all the plates and it's an absolute nightmare. But we did learn a lot, that's for sure. And while you were just answering that question, that made me think too about training. That Neora has such a great suite of training, right? You don't have to bring skills with you to this. You can learn everything you need just from the training. And it's something that we've always said in the police department. is that the success is based on leadership and training. And that's pretty much it, right? If you have good leadership and good training, you're going to be successful. And that's what we found. And that's what was so attractive, at least to me with Neora, was it just had really good lead as we moved along and was exposed to more of it. The level of leadership and training is substantial.
Yeah. And you don't have to pay to be trained outside, right? The trainers are here at the company. Yeah. And there's a system. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so and you've been doing this for 13 years now, so that's a pretty significant amount of time. What would you say has been your favorite part of this business?
It might sound very altruistic, but it truly is seeing others thrive, seeing others grow and hit their goals. It was great, when we hit the car for the first time, earned our Lexus car payment, that was exciting. And then when we turned around and helped somebody else do it, it was more exciting. And I didn't realize I would ever feel that way because we never had that opportunity to help somebody earn a car payment, the number 2 payment in most people's household outside of their mortgage. So going to the car dealerships with our new brand partners that had earned it, that was huge. And then hitting the 6-figure income, hitting national marketing director, and helping others do that as well and celebrating with them. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but it does get lonely at the top, as they say. That is not, he teases me for all my little cliches, but that is not a cliche. It is lonely when you don't have others to celebrate with. And this business is so wonderful for that yes, you can have your own success, but you can turn around, reach down, and help others be as successful or more successful than you. That's my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think people too, like we talk about how we believe in others and we see them as NMDs. We see them being successful in the business. And I don't know. I think a lot of the people we say that to, they think it's just something we say. And it's just, it's a kind of a talking point. And we truly do want to see them succeed. We truly do see that in them, right? We see that potential. We would do anything to help them succeed. And I don't know if people really, I don't know if they believe it or not.
I know.
I think if they did, they'd be more successful. But like Vic was saying, I think we enjoyed so much seeing the success in others. And then also seeing how many people are willing to help them, right? You're not on your own.
Right. You have a whole support team when you, especially at Neora. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Was that, I was going to say weird, but that's probably not the right word, but was that kind of different compared to, what you'd experienced? I mean, I imagine there's got to be teamwork and camaraderie at the LAPD, but probably a very different way than,
it is. It's very, very different, right? Because we do want to see each other succeed and we do help each other to succeed, but to a point, I guess. I don't know. Like when we're talking about for the ones that are interested in upward mobility, they're interested in promotion and whatnot. I've seen some pretty cutthroat, I've just seen some guys they're just trying to, like the crabs in a bucket, right? How come they don't put lids on buckets? Because as one starts to climb out to freedom, another one grabs them and pulls them back down. And I've seen some of that in the police department with these guys that are just interested in promoting. And I was never that guy. I didn't want to promote. I loved what I did, and I wanted to stay in the field. So I only went to a certain level and then just put the lid on it from there. But we do, because what I mostly work were specialized units. So in the specialized unit, it's a small unit, and we have that small unit kind of mentality and tactics. So we are a team. We do work with each other all the time. We train all the time together, and there's certain jobs that each of us does, and we're responsible for that job. So we do help each other out, but it's different than the help with Neora, because with Neora, it's like everyone's helping everyone through the whole thing, right? Sure. And it's all about trying to help advance, everyone pretty much.
Yeah. And if I could speak to the candle business, The Amway business, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say the name. The Amway, what you did have lots of help. It was similar to Neora, not at all like Neora, because there were tribes and there was some things where you weren't included in, helping, with the entire company. And we don't have that at Neora, which is wonderful. But in the candle business, it was a great company. I did love it. But as I look back on it, there was a breakaway compensation plan. And so as I was rising through the ranks and getting close to the top level, which would be similar to a national marketing director at Neora, which was regional vice president, which I hit. But as I started getting close, my sponsor, who was a regional vice president, stopped helping me. And I was kind of wondering why she pulled away until I realized when I became also a regional vice president, I broke away from her, and she no longer got paid on my team and anything my team did. And so we don't have that at Neora ever. And so, yeah, it's so different that way because we've taken the gotchas out. It really is true what Jeff and Amber always say. We started this company and removed all the gotchas of what most other direct sales companies do. And that's what we see here. We really see it's probably not, there's no perfect company. I think it's pretty darn close. It's as close as you can get. And that's what we'd been praying for. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say is the hardest part about direct selling in general or what you're doing now? Like there's always a flip side, right?
Right. The hardest part, I think, is when we see the potential. It's always that unused potential. We see the potential in each person that we're helping start their business. And then they kind of fall by the wayside. They let somebody steal their dream. They just and you try to uncover, hey, what happened? You said you wanted to do this and you had this big why and these big goals. What happened? And sometimes they don't communicate and they just kind of fall, wither away and die, as Jim Rohn kind of says about planting seeds. And that breaks my heart. The lost potential, and you're trying to help them and they don't clear, you're throwing them the life preserver, but they don't want it. They're not even grabbing for it. That's the hardest part for me. What about you?
I think the hardest part is when we share this, is just overcoming those objections that people have to direct selling. I think that they have the wrong impression of it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes, and if they really knew what those were, it has nothing to do with what we do, not even close. But it's overcoming a lot of those objections. I think it's just so difficult.
Yeah, that's something that we see periodically. Like, and everybody who's affiliated or familiar with direct selling, network marketing knows that there are companies out there that have like a reputation and sometimes deserved, but I'm always curious, like from your perspective, like why do you think that those, like where do you think that comes from? Like where do you think, like is it just human nature to find the negative about something without really knowing about it?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I haven't really thought of it. Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think people maybe heard something about something back in the 40s or the 50s that's just been passed generationally down to them, and they think, oh my gosh, I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
I know. So. I remember when we were involved with Amway, and that was back in the 90s. They had such a bad stigma to Amway, that name, that we actually didn't call it. Our tribe, right, was trained to say that we weren't part of Amway. We were part of this other group organization, and that's what we would share with people. So it was. Actually, it's misleading. It wasn't. We are part of Amway. That's who we are.
And they changed the name to Quickstar for a hot second. I don't know if you knew that, Dave, but Amway.
I remember that. Yeah.
And we were like, "What are you doing?" Even in the people in the field, we couldn't understand. And now they're back to Amway. They're proud of their name. They should be. It's a great company. But yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that I think that's kind of come full circle. I don't think it has that negative stigma as bad as it did back then, in the 90s and probably early 2000s, because lately we've had far less objection to it. It's been much easier to share. And when I said about the whole Ponzi scheme pyramid thing, we really haven't heard that recently. That was more of a thing going back, 10 years ago. It seems, I think maybe some of I think it's a generational thing too. I think the younger generations, they don't want a conventional 9 to 5, sit in a cubicle job, right? They
Yeah.
would much rather work from home. Well, what are you going to do if you're going to work from home? Are you going to sell something on Etsy? Or maybe direct sales is the answer. So I think they're a little more open to direct sales.
Yeah, but I think you guys are spot on. It's the parents of some of these people telling an old story, and they're just believing it. That's what I've run across. So, well, my mom or my uncle Bob told me it's a pyramid. You better check that out, and it's not. We're not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I found too, is that a lot of times it's really, it's just, it's a lack of awareness. And it's like people hear things, and I don't really blame people, because like, where would you go to find out, right? Like, a lot of people don't
Yeah.
even know where to go to get educated on direct selling, which is interesting, because direct selling in the United States, 1 in 6 households is actively participating in a direct selling business. And so it's not like there's a lack of people doing this, but it is interesting, like, just how little awareness, how little knowledge there is generally about the space, which we've talked about doing an episode. We should do an episode like that.
That
Yeah.
would be great. I
Yeah,
would
for sure.
share it like crazy. Yeah.
I think another key to it also is that when we share with people, we're a little more selective now who we share with, because I know before it was just share with everyone, and most of the people that we were sharing with back in the day were people who weren't entrepreneurial minded, right? They've never owned their own business, probably never even thought to own their own business. So they're a W-2 employee. They think that the way to success is just work more hours, or find another job that pays a little more. So those were the people that we're getting the most pushback from.
Yeah.
So when we look at now, we talk to people, and if it's someone who's considering doing their own job or having their own business, or have had their own business in the past, we have very little pushback from those people that are more of an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, and they know the truth. Yeah, yeah.
Because they get
About
it,
all
right?
it,
They get
yeah.
it. They get the tax code wasn't written for a W-2 employee, right? It was the tax code was written for business owners.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get all your deductions and whatnot. So why wouldn't you own a business?
Yeah.
That's the American dream, for goodness sakes, right? That's why so many people migrated to this country, right? For the American dream. The American dream wasn't to go work for a big corporation. It was to have your own family little business.
Yeah, exactly. My grandfather from Denmark did that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I just posted on Facebook a picture of him that I found in front of his delicatessen in Brooklyn, New York. And he came from Denmark in the 30s, and that was what he did. And so, yeah, it's really true.
So you've got entrepreneurship kind of in the blood.
Definitely.
cool.
Yeah.
What last question, then I'll let you get back to your what you were doing. But I'm curious, like, what would you say? What would you say to somebody who's looking at direct selling? Maybe they're looking at, replacing income. Maybe they're looking at you're just doing something on the side. Like, what advice would you give them about getting started? Like, how to find the right company? Like, what would you tell somebody about that?
Well, number one, I would say look into Neora. I am biased, I know, but we investigated so many, and we've had so many. Also, John had a photography business we didn't even talk about. So, and there's a lot of pitfalls. So for us, it's look into many and come down to your top 3, and that's what I would say, and make a pro and con list. That's what we did. Even when the friend shared Neora, we actually sat down and made a pro list and a con, and we literally had about 15 pros and 1 con. And the 1 con was, well, that you have to get started with your business pack. Well, that ended up being a pro anyway, because the business pack was the best deal. You got to try the products that you really wanted to, and you're off and running. So, and it was a tax write-off. The business pack's a tax write-off. So it became a pro too.
Yeah.
So it's really, yeah. And then for me, I know we've talked about this a lot, is decide and then just go for it. Don't second guess yourself. Don't stew on it too long because you'll probably talk yourself out of it. That's one thing as entrepreneurs we've learned. Make a decision and go. Yeah. And I know you have a lot to say on that topic too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? Like you have three choices. You can make the right decision, you're making the wrong decision, or you can make no decision. And the worst of those three choices is making no decision, because that's always wrong. So yeah, I would just tell someone, like, just make that decision to start something, because we're big on multiple streams of income coming into the household, right? And so why not add another stream of income? If it works, if you get an extra $500 to $1,000, that would be awesome for most families.
Oh,
If
yeah.
it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Big deal, right?
Yeah.
So we just tell them, make a decision. And once you've made the decision, let's just find what works best for you and your family. And like Vic said, don't think about it. Don't second guess yourself. Most successful people can make instant decisions. Just make the decision, and let's put some work into it.
No, I love that.
I
love
like that too.
I know. I think we're going to put that on our Built to Win Hall of Fame quote wall, which I just decided we're going to start doing.
Oh, that's cute.
No, that was awesome. That was awesome. Make a decision, then put some work into it. I think that's great advice, and that applies way beyond just direct selling. That applies to, I think, anybody who's tuning into Built to Win, looking for, mindset, or like upskilling and looking to grow your business more effectively and bigger and better and faster than you have before. I think that advice applies to everything.
Yeah.
This has been great, you guys. Thank you so much for jumping on and joining me. This has been a fabulous episode.
Thank
you,
you.
Dave. We love them.
Yeah, we do. And we'd love to have you on ours. It's called Dig the Well. And
Yeah, tell us more about that. Well, before we go.
Yeah, Dig the Well. We try to keep the story short, but the truth is we've raised some great kids. They were both valedictorians. We've always had people tell us, gosh, you should write a book about raising kids. And we were like, nah, you don't want to know our tips. But after a while, we just realized, and we have been successful in business too, life and business. And now our kids are entrepreneurs. So we just thought it was time that maybe we're not going to write a book together, but a podcast sure would be great, because when we had our original business, the Prestige Motoring Accessories one, I remember saying to John, hey, well, can't we just call so-and-so? We were trying to figure out where to buy something from a vendor. And I said, aren't there mentors that we could just ask? And John was like, no, because we'd be their competition.
Yeah, right.
Remember that? Yeah. And so it's all about entrepreneurship. So we just talk about from soup to nuts, just all types of topics on being an entrepreneur. Did you want to add on?
No, and I love the title, because that's something Vikki has always said, right? Dig the well before you need the water. And I think it's so important that things may be going well right now, but who knows what's going to happen 5-10 years down the road. So why not dig that well? And then if, God forbid, something bad happens, you're set. You're okay.
Yeah.
You can survive it.
And that's what happened with him. We didn't plan to retire him with our business at Neora, but it started paying off some bills. We're getting comfortable, out of debt. We're getting to have more discretionary income. And then when you decided to pull the plug early, we're like, we've got all this coming in. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that we didn't talk about, Dave, was that building this business, or any business, right? It gives you options. And that's that was, thank goodness it gave me that option 9 years early, because I had my career planned out, when I was going to retire, when I was going to go on this program we called Drop, and it's very lucrative. I had all this all figured out. So when it came time, but I was really getting tired of going to work, to be honest with you. The job I signed up for in the 90s was not the job I retired from. And it was just becoming just a drag, and had the option to walk away from it, take an early retirement. And so that's what I did. And I still put in 25 years, but it was still an early retirement, because I was 9 years early.
Right. Sure. Yeah. So we dug the well, and when we needed the water, it was there. Yeah. And yeah, so hence
great
the
advice.
Name.
Hence the name. Where can people find it? Where is your podcast?
It's everywhere. It's on every
everywhere.
podcast platform. It's on YouTube, Rumble. You just type in Dig the Well podcast and you'll find it on your favorite channel.
Super.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on to Built to Win. And you can tell you guys are pros at podcasting because this was a pretty great episode. I'm sure people are going to love it. But thank you for coming on. This has been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you for having us, Dave. Appreciate
Thank you.
All right, you guys take care, and we'll see you next time, everybody, on Built to Win.
Yay.
That was Dave Fleming talking with Vikki and John Downey about their entrepreneurial journey and the rewards they get from helping others succeed. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you learned something from it, please share it with a friend or colleague who you think would also benefit. And if you're new to Built to Win, we invite you to go back and listen to our story from the beginning. You can find us wherever you download your favorite podcasts. And while you're there, please rate us and leave a review to let us know what you think of the show.